I'm a litigating lawyer, Mukul, but my first thing is, guys, don't go to court. Breakdown of marriage, not a ground under the Indian law in a contested matter. We are incompatible, big deal. Not a ground. You have to prove that your conduct has caused immense agony, immense grief. And the system is that in a lower court, you are stuck for 5 to 7 years. Then you go to the high court, you are stuck for the next same number of years.
Wow.
I had this guy, I'm talking about around 12 years back. He still not got a divorce. They rejected it because they said, you have not made out a case of alleged mental cruelty perpetrated on you. So today, that gentleman is married, giving maintenance to the wife.
And we do hear about laws getting abused in divorce.
So there's the Protection of Women from the Domestic Violence Act, which was enacted. And there were various justifiable reasons for doing so, more to protect and empower the women. But then there was a section of society, especially the women, who started abusing and misusing the law for ulterior motives. I've seen cases where 80 and 85-year-old grandparents were arrested on complaints made by a woman. The court said that you knew what your problem is, but she was carrying a bag. It was an Hermes bag. So she tells the court that there's no food on my table. But I was so tempted to just ask her to sell her bag if she doesn't have it and see the kind of food that she'll be able to eat. When matters of maintenance comes, every husband has gone into insolvency and he's gone bankrupt. And every woman who is there is so distressed that there's no food on the table. And both of them are lying. I'm saying this in 2026, okay? Marriage is an institution which gives you security, is an institution which gives you status, is an institution which looks up to you with a lot of respect.
Do arranged marriages last longer than love marriages?
If there are 10 cases which are there for divorce, in my experience, 7 of them are.
You have been married for decades. And you have spent your entire career watching marriages end.
The most important thing that in a long-standing relationship, like my marriage is over 4 decades, is...
Mrunalini Deshmukh is one of India's top divorce lawyers. She has spent decades inside the most private breakdowns of Indian families, where love, money, children, and the law all collide at once. In this conversation, we get into everything. Why marriages actually break, what couples never talk about before getting married but should, how sex, infidelity, and social media become fault lines, how the law gets used and misused, how alimony really works, what happens to family wealth, and what a clean divorce can look like even in India. Nobody walks into a marriage planning to leave. Mrunalini has seen thousands of divorce cases, which makes this one of the most honest conversations you'll ever hear about relationships. If you're in any sort of relationship, learn from other people's mistakes. It's cheaper and you'll be happier. Let's just pause. Subscribing here isn't just about supporting our channel. It's about choosing what kind of thinking you want around you regularly. So if that resonates, you know what to do. For someone who doesn't know you, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So, Mrunalini Deshmukh, I'm a lawyer. Started working as a constitutional and administrative lawyer in the High Court. Obviously got married, got kids, took a sabbatical for 16 years. Then I did my master's in law, took up teaching at the university postgraduate level. I was also teaching here at the KC College Constitutional Law. And once my kids were a little grown up, where my younger one, she was around 10 and my older one was 14. Then I said, because the passion was always there for me to work as a lawyer. Well, what once started as something with no mentor, no senior, and just going and trying as if a fresh law graduate, then one thing led to the other and I could work on those things. So when I took up Mukul family law, let me be very honest, I'm talking about 25, 26 years back. So when I started there, I'm telling you, even people from my profession and people around didn't really look up to me taking family law. I mean, maybe she doesn't know much. She can't handle
It's like
corporate
a
law.
low-level thing.
Chota
Criminal or corporate basically was the
in thing to be done.
Right.
However, I knew my priorities, which was to combine my work and my children.
Yes.
And I got into it. And today, the reason I'm giving you this background, today, corporate lawyers who have worked in corporate law firms or whatever are all getting into family law. So is it the growth in the family law? Is it the number of cases that have gone up? Is there a lot of importance that is being given to this kind of law? Or is it the most important thing that is happening? In fact, the statistics say, and I'm talking about Bombay, I don't know about the other part of it, that the maximum filing of the petitions are done in the family court. So that's the kind of thing that it's got now.
And is that because of is the family law growth also because of the divorce rates? You keep hearing different things, that India is one of the lowest divorce rates in the world, but it's growing. I think you said it's galloping.
Yes. So I'll tell you, India did have a low divorce rate, and I would say 10 years, 15 years back, if you compare it with the US and other European countries. Today, the rate has gone up, but it's not as high as the rates which are there. And also in India, Mukul, you have to understand, we have to see the urban area.
There are many
urban
Indias.
metro, then you have 2-tier cities, and then you have these other things. So divorce is predominantly in the urban metro areas.
What is the divorce rate, would you say?
So I don't have the official statistic, but I don't think it would be more than 8 to 10%. That also on the higher side.
Got it. And is it true that women are now initiating the majority of divorce cases in India?
Yes.
In your experience?
I'll tell you, definitely women are now are the ones who are initiating as compared to men. And again, I'm giving you a comparative thing only for you to understand how the Indian structure works. So again, if I go back, say 20 years back, it was obviously more men who would come and who would wanting it. If some lady came, she would not come with her family. She would come with a friend or she would come with a cousin, because it was something that it was a taboo. Where we come now, we hear, yes, to answer your question, there are a lot of women which are coming forward. They know what they want in life. They are very definite what they want to do. And they have no hesitation in going to a lawyer and asking that if this is what I want, what are my options, etc., etc., etc. One of the reasons, Mukul, is also, and especially I'm talking about the urban metro population of women, is a little bit of financial independence that has come up, awareness about that you can lead your life the way you want. Marriage is not some chain that you are, it's not an institution in which you are chained and you have to be there. And thirdly, and more importantly, is that you do have a right over your life to lead in a more meaningful manner, rather than being stuck because you are stuck in an institution called marriage. So I think it's a combination, and we are all globally exposed. So all those things also affect the way you think.
You were talking about the courts, the family courts in Mumbai or in Bandra.
Right.
And you were telling me about the backlog, and can you tell us a little bit about how the courts are and how many courts are there?
So 25, 26 years back, we would be having around 500, 700 cases a year.
A year. In Mumbai.
There were some 20, 25 lawyers who were there. There was 5, 7 judges and who would manage. Now we come today. Today we have, and today in the family court in Mumbai, we have 7 floors. Each floor has 1 judge. And each court has around 75 matters every day. So multiply 75 into 7 on one single day.
That's
so
500.
I'm not saying all of them are divorces. There's some of them child custody issues, some of them are at the counseling stage, maintenance, settlement, etc.
25 years ago, we had 500 cases a year.
And look at
And
today.
now you have 500 cases a day.
Yes.
And still it's jammed.
And the backlog, I'm sure we all read newspapers, including the Supreme Court Chief Justice has said that how do we cover the backlog. I can tell you one interesting story that I had this guy who had come to me, I'm talking about around 12 years back, and started with the divorce 12 or 13 years back. His matter is still in the High Court. He's still not got a divorce.
But why did this happen?
Because the system.
But why did they reject it?
They rejected it because they said you have not made out a case of alleged mental cruelty perpetrated on you by your wife. So that's why we need to understand what it is. So we have a divorce by mutual consent where both the parties are consensual parties and they agree.
And that's easy.
That's relatively easy.
Got it.
And because sometimes the terms that have to be negotiated takes time, the money or the children, or case may be. But that, if you arrive at a situation, that's relatively easy. As compared to this, I want a divorce, and you're going to say, no, I don't want to give you a divorce. What do you do? Then I have to say, breakdown of marriage, not a ground under the Indian law in a contested matter. We are incompatible, big deal,
Oh,
not a ground. You have to prove out. You have to prove that your conduct has caused immense agony, immense grief, which is reflected either in my physical, it is affecting my physical well-being, my emotional well-being. So the law used to be that it is impossible for me to live with you. If you are able to prove that, like what you have in criminal law, beyond reasonable doubt. So here it's impossible for you to live with me. Only if you're able to prove that, the mental cruelty could be given. And some other party, not for the love of the husband or not for anything else, maybe sheer vengeance or sheer, I'm going to give you back. I'm not going to give you divorce. Go fly a kite. And the system is that in a lower court, you're stuck for 5 to 7 years. Then you go to the high court. High court, you're stuck for the next same number of years.
wow.
And then you have an option in Supreme Court. One matter, very well-known doctor who started his petition for divorce in the lower court with a 2-year-old child, lost in the lower court, lost in the high court. We went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, sorry, we will not give you divorce. Now, there is no other forum available for me.
So how many years
I
was
am
this?
mad. 15 years.
So the child is now 17.
Yeah, 18. He's just about taking, what is that, medical entrance and all. He's a doctor. The father is a doctor. So, which is exactly what is happening. So today, that gentleman is married away from the spouse for 15, 18, 20 years, whatever the number of cases are there, giving maintenance to the wife and still not getting the relief.
Got it.
Unlike overseas, just to make a comparison, divorce is given for the asking. What is agitated are these ancillary issues of child custody, assets, or whatever, division of the assets, etc. So you are assured of divorce. The rest is taken.
That makes sense. If one person doesn't want to be with the other person.
But you have to understand the Indian background.
Yeah.
Mukul, you have to understand where we are coming from. It's not only about the value system. It's
different for different Indias.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of it that you have to see it in the context in which we are there. I mean, yes, as you and me, we would think about it that if two people can't live, and if one doesn't want to live with the other, then why would you not just let me go, and why can't you do that? But that is, they have to see in the overall perspective, in all the angles that the courts have to see. So though the laws are pretty colonial in that sense, because our laws are based on the Matrimonial Causes Act, archaic indeed, courts are now suggesting through judicial activism about some more innovative but the law as we talk still remains the way it is.
So better watch it before you get married.
Yes.
Cheating grounds for divorce?
Yes. So under the law, there are various grounds of divorce. So one is adultery. So which includes cheating, infidelity. Then there is mental cruelty, physical cruelty, desertion over a period of 2 years and more. Somebody has mental health issues, so they call it unsoundness of the mind. And lastly, also there are certain things which are health-wise, which are communicable, diseases, etc. But what is cheating under the law? Adultery. So if a spouse is cheating on the other, and if he or she has gone outside marriage and indulged into adultery, then that could be a good ground for divorce for the other spouse. But what happens if there is no physical relationship of adultery? There is infidelity, which is at an emotional level. That can be at best, and that too depends upon how the judge feels about it, could be couched as mental cruelty. So infidelity is a ground for divorce.
Got it. And how common is that in your experience?
I would say it's pretty common is because today we are all women and men are working, we are associating with each other at different levels, at workplace, at clubs, at whatever things are there. These days I find very many cases, just incidentally, school parents, your child is going, my child is going, and then, we meet Either as school parents, we meet together, or we go for whatever their camps or and
Yes.
things. And this is where these extramarital relationship. In fact, there is a I'm talking for myself, that there is a particular buildings which are there somewhere in these lower Parel areas where I have 5 of these cases at a time, and I'm talking to you right now.
5 cases in one building.
Yes, I mean it's a complex of
Yeah,
two,
yeah,
three
yeah,
built
yeah.
towers, and in those things which are A having an affair with B, from A tower to B tower, B tower with having with C, C is this, and some of them are school parents and things like that. So this is one thing that yes, so there are very many avenues available for men and women to interact, and that leads to some cases. I'm not saying all cases, but some cases into infidelity.
Proximity is the number one factor in determining attraction.
Yes.
So the more time
Absolutely.
you can spend with someone.
Yeah, so with your colleagues, if you're at the workplace,
Yes,
or
yes.
you're like, things like, no, I'm just giving you a different issue. Means,
Pretty serious. Yes.
yes, that's the change that I see in my.
And what are the different types of infidelity that you see?
Yeah. So the ground for divorce, as I said earlier, is adultery. So adultery necessarily includes a sexual and intimacy, a physical intimacy with the person or the outside marriage. But nowadays we also have what is known as emotional infidelity or mental infidelity, as one would call it, and which means that there may not be actually, in the real sense, actual physical intimacy, but barring that, there is everything. So A and B are into a relationship. They are not having any physical relation, but they share everything. They care for just as a couple is supposed to be doing. And they're so involved with each other and each other's life. That is affecting the marriage. So then the marriage becomes secondary, the marital relationship becomes secondary. And thirdly, and more importantly, is then your priorities are completely different. And that is also what affects the relationship. So your husband, say, I would say one's husband may not be, to put it in a very cliched manner, sleeping around with the girl or the lady or ladies, as one would call it. But yeah, we have a lot of such cases. But is surely a one who is so emotionally invested in another person. I know it's nothing physical, but I have doubts. But that's one part of it. And if this is so much investment in this relationship, which is so emotional, what is there in my. Because a person who has emotional infidelity, their even physical and sexual intimacy with their partner goes south.
Those are the two types of infidelity.
Yes, so that's the major thing that we're
Got it.
talking about.
You said that all good lawyers have to be good shrinks as well.
Right.
And especially a divorce lawyer, obviously.
Absolutely.
Because you're dealing with such a personal thing, two people ultimately. But what I want to understand is, you said in 10 minutes of meeting someone, is serious or not serious? Is it just some frivolous, I had a fight last night, had a few drinks, or it's like, this has been a long festering thing? How do you see those signs?
Yeah, so to be honest, this is purely by experience, not that I have any exceptional skills that I would like to say about it, but by experience, one is able to gauge what it is. We do have people who have it's a knee-jerk reaction, like you just mentioned, that there was a major fight that took place, or it could also be that last night I discovered that my husband was chatting with someone last night, and I found out that there's some person there, and there was some emojis exchanged and some things exchanged, and something popped up, and all these, I'm just telling you the way they put it, and I can't be living with him, and they come the next day. I mean, without realizing that, okay, he's done what he's done, it's definitely not right, but is it really so wrong? So if you have to strike a balance between, really, is it so then we, at least me, probably with my limited experience, I'm able to understand that this is not really what is required. One doesn't have to fuel this further. Empathy is one part of it, but not to take it to the level at which they want. Not that all want to listen to it or want to go by the advice that I would feel is wise counsel, but at least it helps some people to understand. Because I'll tell them that, listen, I completely understand. I empathize with you. This is not done. But can we think about it maybe 10 days later or a week later? How do you feel about it? Talk about it, think about it, just mull over it, think about everything. I'm here, we can meet after 8 days. Some of the cases I've seen that they have thought about it, that we need some more time, or maybe can we come back to you whenever? Surely, I mean, ideally don't come back, because then that means you're working on the marriage. Some of them are determined, then we have to take it to its logical end. Because you can just kind of advise. Ultimately, it's their life. They have to take their own choice.
And how can you tell when they've made up their mind?
Like the other day, also, I was talking to one of the persons, and he was telling me that he's determined. So they adopted a girl 2 years back. They didn't have a child. So I just told him, I said, listen, such a beautiful daughter you adopted. He showed me the picture. I said, you adopted a child, which means you wanted a child. God was kind enough to give you. Now, why do you want this child to grow up who was otherwise maybe in an orphanage,
Right.
and who, with the grace of God, came to a family like yours, again to be in a broken home?
Right.
Believe you me, Mukul, I tried to counsel him for nearly 2 hours
Right.
with his mother next to him.
You really wanted.
No, I was looking for the child. I said,
Yes, yes.
and I said, this gentleman is just overreacting or things like that. He said, let me think and come back. And I said, show me some pictures of your daughter and you. I just wanted him to, so he came next to me, showed me on the phone some. I said, see, she, a really beautiful child. And I said, so on and so forth. He came after 3 days and says, no, I'm determined. I don't want it. My child could be with her mother, obviously, because she's 2 years of age. We want to work out all these things. So he was very determined. So I failed. And I'm saying this, I failed as a lawyer or as a person or whatever to impress upon him why it was necessary. And the reasons were very frivolous.
Really?
The reason was that she's governed and dictated by her mother. Her mother interferes too much.
Right.
And unfortunately, the mother is a widow. I understand that she has to be supportive, but the interference is becoming very claustrophobic for me.
They should have decided that before they had the kid.
That's exactly what I
Right.
said. I said, listen, you just adopted a child 2 years back. It's not that the child is some 10 years and then it happened. So he said now, because the child has come, the grandmother, the nanny, has come and just plonked herself in our house.
Oh.
Because we are both working, and she said, why do you need some outside help? I'm there and I'm doing this. And there is no time. She decides everything. Now, I'm sure it's very painful for him to take this call because of this. But if you see as a third person, you'll find it
Quite
weird.
excessive.
Yes. And weird. I mean, how could that be a reason for it? So he didn't have much against his wife.
Right.
Okay. Except that she's been dictated by her and she just followed. But it was like a issue between the son-in-law and mother-in-law.
Right.
A divorce between them.
Right. Wow. Because, and that's very interesting. And the family dynamics. And in India, of course, we have joint families. We have, close-knit. India is a close-knit family space where the parents or the mother who's single is there, of either of the spouses. We have more family intervention in India. That's just India. You can't, that is what India is. How important, like if you want to make a list over this whole podcast, what things that people can look out for to prevent them coming to you. So I guess one of the things, would you say, is that understand the dynamic of the family that you're getting into. Is that a very important?
That's a very important family dynamics, a very important factor. I also would like to say that if there are any red flags that you see prior to getting married, maybe during your courtship period or when you're in a relationship or something, my advice to people is first address those red flags. Don't shove it under the carpet. And don't say, okay, that can be dealt with after we get married. Because you never know how they surface. If you find, just in the case of this gentleman who found his mother-in-law very interfering and may not be with a bad intent, maybe stemming out of her insecurity or just having a control over her daughter or something. I asked him, I said, did you notice that? So he said, yes, I did notice prior to marriage. But I thought that once I get married, my wife will be sort of, she'll tell her mother that, okay, mom, I love you. I'll take care of you. Everything is there, but this is my life. And, if you need, I'm always there. And but he's saying this is what I expected. So I said, yeah, that your expectation was very utopian. Did you express it to your wife prior to marriage? Now your wife, who was your girlfriend then. I asked her, I said, listen, this is what I'm finding a little unnerving, or I'm finding something which is very disturbing for me. Because, so she said that, listen, even your mother is a widow, and your mother would also do the same thing, and whom would she cling on to you? So maybe that's what she's doing. But I guess our parents will realize after our marriage that we have our own unit and we need to sort of be independent. So, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
So sometimes even when you have a conversation.
Yes. Yes. And when you have a conversation and if you really feel that's not going, at least I'm not saying call it off, but at least give it some time. Whether that can be, what's the hurry? Why rush into something?
Only Fools Rush In, another great song.
Absolutely Fools Rush In. What a beautiful song that is.
Yes. And we've talked about, like the obvious, almost cliches, which is infidelity or, financial things. Are there any other silent killers that you find that really, set in and make the marriage rot and then end up in a divorce?
The silent killers, as I would say, in my opinion, is lack of respect and lack of trust. Like I always say, Mukul, maybe it sounds very sort of preachy, but ultimately in a relationship, trust and respect are the most important. So that's the edifice. Your love, your romance, your passion, all these things.
They come and go.
Maybe for the younger generation that is very important. But if it has to be a long-lasting, sustainable relationship, if you have these two basic things, then I think you are able to tide over all these situations. It's not about running around the trees as you see in movies. Or
that's good in
holidays.
The beginning. You need it for a spark.
No,
I
but
guess.
that's initially. No, but I'm saying long-lasting.
Yeah,
so that's why I said that.
I agree, yes.
In a sustainable
that's kind of
relationship.
pre-marriage.
Yeah, that's pre-marriage.
And then
yes.
few years, but then trust and respect. In fact, trust and respect help a lot. Even if things don't work out, which they might, life is going on. But if there's trust and respect, then everything is fine. It doesn't go into some crazy dramatic divorce zone.
So these kind of perspectives help you in keeping the relationship together or cementing is what I feel.
That's a very good point. So they have my back.
Yes.
Do I trust? At least when you're getting married, at that point you should feel that I 100%. I trust means things may change, but when I'm getting married, I trust this person 100% with my life, my finance, my whatever. If I have those doubts, then
then that is something that one needs to think about.
Right. Another important thing in India is arranged and love marriages. The eternal question.
Yes.
Do arranged marriages last longer than love marriages?
So if you see the statistics in courts, and I'm not making very general statement, if there are 10 cases which are there for divorce, in my experience, and I'm saying solely from my point of view, I'm sure other people have their own thing. Out of 10, 8 of them are love marriages. Or let's say 7, if I want to be more balanced. 7 of them are love marriages and 3 of them are arranged marriages. So yes, arranged marriages in some cases last longer, but there are various reasons for it also. And the reason for the 7 that they go, I think there's too much of expectations prior to marriage. And then when the reality hits when you get married, it could be as stupid as wet towel on the bed, or it could be whatever.
Really? You've seen a wet towel?
Yeah. OCD. People have OCD. That also leads to it.
So
you can't keep the cup like this. The cup has to be like this. Okay? And if it is not there, it's just a big thing. So these are the situations, it becomes very difficult to live with such people because they don't reason. They just want it the way it is. So yes, it does.
So wet towels and cups being placed wrongly have led to divorces.
Yeah, because it's not just one thing. It's a cumulative effect.
Right.
But this plus this plus this plus this, and that's how it leads
all these little OCDs. And tell me, so a little bit more about arranged and love marriages. Like you said, 7 out of 10 is
on an average
on love. So it's about double, 3 and 7.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah.
So what would you say the reasons are for that?
See, the reasons for that is, in my understanding, are that your expectations during courtship period or when you're in love or whatever you say to each other and when the reality hits you hard are 2 different things. You are not able to sort of, adjust to that kind of a situation.
And it's also...
Or you would, if I put my hair like this, you would love me and you would say something. I've done it something, you don't even look at me. You don't even have a comment on it. So you say, okay, I saw it, I didn't comment, yes. I was busy. I was doing, not that I intended to do that. It could be very frivolous, okay? And I'm giving you the most frivolous of an example, only to draw home the point. And this is not what you're doing. So obviously you're a different person. You have no interest in me. So these are stupid things, and I'm calling them stupid, and pardon me for that, are the ones which just multiply and grow into a monster that anything and everything that I do is not appreciated. Anything and everything that I say is tweaked and twisted and things like that.
So would you say it's better if you want less chance of divorce, it's better to have an arranged marriage, listen to your parents?
It's not listening to the parents. It is like I always say, like arranged marriage is like a game of badminton. It's, you start at love all and you build a score, 1 love, 2 love, 3. So it is building. Here you're starting at 100. Probably somewhere you're going down.
Got it.
You cannot go more and things.
But I'm sure people, I know so many people who had arranged marriages, they also have expectations.
Yes, they have expectations, but their expectations are tempered with the circumstances and the sense. And I believe, and again, I don't claim to be authority, but just my belief is that there is a more sustained effort in adjusting in an arranged marriage.
Because you already know from before, you're prepared
Yes.
that there is going to be a massive adjustment.
Yes, and you have to adjust unless you are an acceptable person, my way or the highway. But I'm talking about normal people, that there is an effort, a sustained effort in adjustment and in trying to say that. And Mukul, to be very honest, we're talking about families also in arranged marriages. It's also the kind of advice that you get from your parents. It's also the kind of advice that, or what you've seen around in your immediate family or the extended family that reflects on your behavior with or your conduct with the spouse. So it's a mixed thing that we are talking about. So the reasons for the arranged marriages, and again, as I said, that it's a random sampling that we were doing and we were talking about it. In arranged marriages, most of the issues arise from interference of the in-laws, or it arises from maybe in normal cases, somebody has gone astray and somebody is in an adulterous relationship, or it also arises from the fact of clash of egos. So a combination of all this is there. But in case of a love marriage, which ends up in a divorce, all your circumstances are different prior to marriage. And in some of those cases, post-marriage, you find them completely different, or to a large extent different, or to the extent to say that, listen, you Mukul, you misled me. You misled me. You made me believe this. And this is not what it is. Right. So it leads into that. So I'll tell you, in fact, love marriage, since we're talking about it, I have quite a 3-4 cases right now, that we're talking about, and even in the past, where people have been in a live-in relationship for 3 years, 4 years, and whatever. Young guys in their late 20s or whatever. And then after 4 or 5 years, and their parents ask them, do you want to get married? And they also say, yes, we want to get married. And they get married, and some people who have come to me, or some of the clients who've come to me, are within, and I'm talking about the current cases that I'm dealing, and I can't even remember what they are in the past, within 3 months of marriage, within 4 months of marriage. And the first question I asked them, that you were together for 4 years, you obviously had your ups and downs, you had wear and tear, but you thought that you could take care and you wanted to get married. Now what has happened in 4 years? And they themselves don't have an answer.
Got it. Something just changes when you get married.
And what is that? One doesn't know.
Yeah,
it's the same
institution.
Thing. You're in the same house. What institution?
Yeah,
See, you are in the same house. You live for 4 years.
Some image that you built of marriage.
Yeah. So 4 years you lived in the same house. Now you underwent some ceremonies. Again, you're staying in the same house for the next 4 months, strange. As compared to 4 years.
Can refusal of sex lead to divorce?
Yes. There are quite a few cases, and I'll tell you the other extreme also, that there are quite a few cases where there is emptiness in the relationship or physical intimacy, lack of it. Those could be various reasons. There could be physical reasons. Somebody has a physiological problem. It could be emotional reasons. Somebody has the baggage of the past, or whatever other reasons are there. But Mukul, that is a good ground also in the eyes of law, because sex is one of the essential things in a marriage. But would you believe me that in so many cases that I know, The couple has not had sex for 20 years, 25 years. They've had children. And then you'd wonder how, because now thanks to the, assisted reproductive issues like IVF, etc., that we are able to get there. So they have children, but they have not had sex. And they're okay with it.
You've never had sex?
No.
Never?
Never.
Oh.
And they're okay with it. And doesn't mean that they are straying or they are finding some comfort and some solace outside the marriage. No. They are in the marriage. They're devoted, in the sense I'm talking about the intimacy part of it. But that's okay. I'll give you an example. There was this one of the pilots who was there, and very nice guy, warm guy, and very friendly and things like that. Very pretty wife. And when he wanted a divorce, we tried to do outside the court, and discussion didn't happen. Then we had to take all the details of it, what happened. And he said that one of the reasons is, besides whatever their other issues were, that there's no sex in the marriage. So I told him, you have 2 children. At the point of time, were 10 and 8. That there are 2 children. He said, would you believe, and I'm putting this very serious, those were the only 2 instances, and these were normal born, okay? So these were the only 2 instances out of 15 years of marriage that we had sex and we had 2 children. I said, this is sounding absurd. He said, yes, but that's the fact. And that was later when we settled the matter, verified with her. Because she forget lack of interest. She abhorred sex. She didn't want to be things, but she wanted in the marriage. But at the same time, she was opposing divorce when he asked for it. And we asked her, then why are you doing this? So she said, I like the comfort of and the security of a marriage. So what? You do your job, I do my job. We take care of the children. So what if there is no sex?
For her, nothing was lacking.
For her, nothing was. Or that was not so important for her.
Yeah.
So it took us a lot of effort to get it done by consent. That's the point.
And can too much sex lead to divorce?
Yes. Some cases, because sometimes these cases could be where there is violence in the marriage. I'm talking about sexual violence. There could be unreasonable demands on the person. And it could be from both sides. I'm not saying on a woman or things like that. So, I had a very interesting case. I was, like we were discussing the other day, where a young man must be in his late 30s or mid-30s, and he came, very tall, good-looking young boy who had come and he said, I want to have a divorce, etc. So we were just I was sitting and trying to find out what the reason was. And his reason was that my wife demands too much of sex. And so I said, what? So he said, ma'am, you will not believe me that she would want me to have sex with her on a normal day of the week 4 times. And it is impossible for me.
4 times a day?
4 times a day.
Oh.
And he says, my workplace and my residence are just about 5 minutes away. She would insist on me coming back on lunchtime. And she would insist on me coming back by around 4:35 before I come back. And he said, I just can't. I'm working. I have to come back. I have to have sex. Then I just have to get onto my work clothes, go back, work. I say, I would shudder coming home. These are his words, Mukul, exact words. He said, ma'am, I would shudder coming home because, oh my God, now if I go home, this is what I have to do. And this is not what I want to do.
Sex is great unless you don't want it.
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't want it, no matter who it is, the most attractive person on earth, but if you don't want it, then it becomes a chore, a negative thing, and then it becomes stressful.
No, not only a chore, it becomes a lot of, forceful thing, which is
forceful,
against you.
It's stressful.
And very stressful. And it's not something that you would like, It's like
it's
overeating.
just rare that it happens to a man. It happens
of
to
course.
Women. It happens to women all the time.
If I say this to someone, somebody would just kind of find it very funny in this sense. Maybe if it was the vice versa, one would take it as one of the things that happen.
Well, the 4 times a day is insane, but yes.
Yes, but something like this is, at least in the Indian context, I don't know what the others are. But then this would sound but these are the stressful things that can happen. So those denial of sex is a good ground for divorce. But in certain cases, the lack of intimacy in a relationship also, or zero sex in a relationship also, keeps the relationship going.
So what do you think is the difference between someone, some people get completely shattered by the divorce and some people have a new life after that? what advice do you have for people, to be resilient after the divorce?
No, advice is that you've taken a call and whatever is happen. So now with that situation, you have to now see what you want to deal with it. Either you are looking for a partner who would be a companion, or you are resigned to the fact that okay, there'll be no partner. I may just have friends, but then I have to come back to an empty bedroom. I may have to come back to an empty house because that's what my life is going to be. It's like losing a partner, say by death or some other such thing. How do you reconcile to the fact unless you want to get into that? It's very difficult even for such people. I mean, I've got so many cases which are said that, he lost his wife and she lost the husband. Then they met and they got together and they decided to get married. It's not very easy, the second innings, as they call it, for such kind of people because they have this baggage of the past.
Got it. You said a very interesting story about how someone came to you looking for basically a pre-wedding counselor. Yeah. They came to you before they got married for advice. Can you just tell us that anecdote?
Of course. So there was this somebody who took appointment with my secretary and they came to my chambers, and there's this young boy and young girl, and I'm sure they must have been late 20s or early 30s. And so like when you go to a divorce law, obviously the first question you're going to ask is, when did you get married? What is the issues, etc. So they said, we are getting married in 2-3 months down the line. We know each other for the last 2-3 years, and we've now decided to get married. We still have so we wanted to speak to you to find out. And I said, so how can I help you? I mean, you come to me. Do you think you should go to a counselor? Do you think you should go to a relationship therapist who will help you to do that? So they said no, but that would be very cliched things. I mean, obviously anybody would be asking to do that, but we wanted to come and speak to someone like you with your experience in this field as to what are the do's and don'ts and what are the red flags that we should be aware of. So because we do want to make it a very long-term sustainable relationship, because we both invested our emotions into it. So I said, fantastic. I said, this is the first thing that you need to know, that you have invested your best of your emotion. You want to make it a sustainable, long-standing duration of marriage. So they said yes, but we want to ensure that with these, because we read so many of these cases which are going for divorce. So I had to sit with them and counsel them and tell them not what they should do, but what are the things that happen or what are the cases that I've dealt with in marriages, in relationships, in divorce, which resulted in divorces, from which they wanted. So they didn't want my advice. Okay, do this and don't do this. But what are the things that you have seen? What are the, like you asked me, what are the causes of divorce? What are the reasons for separation? Why is it that people who are in love with each other, say for 3 years, 4 years, decide to get married? And why is it that after 2 years, they just hate each other? What is it that brings about this? So I had to sit down with them and give them all this, sort of
anecdotes and
anecdotal thing, little more, a little inspirational thing, little motivating things, etc., to be able to do that.
Basically, you give them, that's very interesting because you give them perspective.
So I also was very impressed with that couple who had come to me and who asked me such questions, because I felt it was a very different and an innovative way of understanding, rather than going to a therapist or a counselor who would have told you that you have to adjust and you have to do this and you have to do that, which would have been more preachy, rather than knowing real life cases where divorces have taken place.
So it's interesting in a way. It's like you have a health problem and you don't go to just a specialist, you go to the top surgeons.
So they said that it was very helpful for them. Thankfully, it's been 8 years, 10 years, they've not come back to me. Mm-hmm. So God willing, they are together happy. Right. And if they've achieved some guidance, I'm so glad.
Amazing. And, you spoke about open relationships. Are open marriages a real thing in India?
Yes, they are. Fortunately, I don't want to be judgmental about it. People are in open marriages, and they are in open marriages for 5-6 reasons. Number one, the kids are there. So they want to have that semblance of a family, especially when you're school-going kids, etc. No. I'm not talking about the kids who are in the universities and things like that. So kids are one of the reasons. Second is the social structure, family structure that is there, which in a way looks down upon separated and divorced things. Now, who knows that it's an open marriage? Only the man and the woman know. I mean, the rest need not know. Thirdly, for the financial reasons, that you have only one establishment, their expenses, and I'm talking about people who are, see, salaried people and things like that. So that is the third option. That is the third factor that is there for the open relationship. And fourthly is that, why rock the boat? Do what you want otherwise, but why rock the boat? Marriage is an institution which gives you security, is an institution which gives you status. And today I'm saying this in 2026, okay? Is an institution which gives you status, is an institution which looks up to you with a lot of respect. Now, how is it as compared to somebody who's not married? But I don't, that's the way it is. So these are the reasons why people want to stay in an open relationship where you don't topple the apple cart, but at the same time, you are not stuck in a relationship where you are whining and where you are unhappy and when you're miserable.
So would that mean the main reason they are in open relationship is they want other partners also, basically, the open relationship?
Yeah, because they are basically unhappy with each other.
Right.
They, let's call it, not compatible with each other.
I see.
Mentally, physically.
So it's not a positive thing. We think of open. I mean, I was thinking of it more in the way that, oh, you're such a evolved person. I mean, some people think of it like that.
It's not that. It's I'm unhappy.
I see.
I'm unhappy. You are unhappy. Okay, we try to do whatever it can, but we need to be happy. We can't find happiness in each other. How do we do this without affecting this entire structure of family?
It's a bit of a golden handcuff.
Okay, that's one way of looking at it.
Because you're saying like you want to keep that whole thing around, but you don't really want to be married.
What is marriage? Is it only sex? You only have sex in an open marriage outside.
Right.
So what is marriage? Marriage is not,
That's a good one.
sorry, it's not only about sex, no, at the end of the day.
They must
You're
be finding,
doing everything.
Right.
You go for family functions, you go for your holidays with the
Right.
kids, you go for social events, you do everything, your religious events, everything is
But
fine.
you're saying they don't like each other. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, but these are the things. You don't have to love each other or like each other. These are the chores you do.
Holidays is a big one. That's
So
a big one.
holidays is not a big one. Holidays is fine. You may not be you may be in the same room, you may be in separate rooms.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, ultimately when you are there,
So they don't share the same bedroom?
no.
They don't, right?
No, it all depends. I mean, some people share the same bedroom and still they have what it is, but some of them are. And now, Mukul, I don't know, maybe it's sounding very strange, but doesn't mean that because you're in love and because you have to sleep on the same bed.
I was just going to ask you that.
No,
Do you
that's
think-
not what it is. There are so many cases where the marriages are, okay, let's call them happy or compatible, and they do sleep in different bedrooms.
Especially as they get
a
older.
child. As they get older, you need your space, man. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not that everybody has to. It's not that every night you want to, hug your partner or just cuddle up.
I don't think anyone does that after 20 years anyway.
Exactly, and then you just want your own space.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to wind down. Someone wants to read a book at night. Someone wants to go to sleep straight away. Someone wants the AC at 21. Someone wants the AC
Yes.
at 25. These are the small things.
So yes, like I said,
Everybody snores.
Yes, like I said, I'd gone for this dinner where this gentleman, we gave him divorce. And we don't give him divorce, but he got his divorce and just wanted to do. So we met one more person who was also their friend. And the lady was also divorced a couple of years back. And we just spoke to her, and since we were talking about it, and she said, "Oh, I'm so happy. It's my bathroom.
Yeah.
There's nobody who's sharing my bathroom." So that was the instant reaction.
Yes.
So it may sound so stupid, but even sharing of a bathroom is something which could be a toxic or a painful thing.
Okay, small pause. This is the part where I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe. But honestly, only do it if you want more conversations that actually make you think. That's the whole point of the secret sauce. All right, back to it. In your experience, have you seen social media as being one of the causes for divorce?
Yes. People, and I'll tell you this was more predominant during the COVID times. So where we were all holed up in the houses and obviously that we couldn't go out and things like that. The number of cases that came to me from either spouses, from the husband or the wife, and of course those consultations were on the phone because there was no physical interaction those days, was with women and men getting involved with online people. It starts with a Facebook request or something. then goes into a message. So what I learned, this is something as a learning experience for me. Then you go on the messages, and from messages you go to the WhatsApp, and from WhatsApp you go to exchanging, this is what I like, this I don't. And some of the cases had also gone into where they were having phone sex, they were having whatever kind of some things, and that was affecting. And so there's a spouse who's sleeping and gets up in the maybe to have a glass of water at 2 in the morning and finds the partner on the iPad or doing this and going through all that situation. So those have been affected, which is called like online interaction with people, which has resulted into a very kind of thing. The recent thing is pickleball and what is that called? Paddle. Those are the breeding grounds for, and there has been some 32%. I mean, I don't know, I may be completely wrong. It was no verified. So I must give you that disclaimer. This is all on the Instagram that I read, that these are the places which are the breeding grounds for divorce. I mean, whoever thought about it?
So it's basically we're saying that
I know it's very strange, but
human beings have no control over themselves, and wherever a man and woman are in proximity,
absolutely.
Children's school, building,
yes,
paddle, sports.
I've given you all.
It'll be the deathbed of the father next thing. Wherever the girl meets the guy and the guy meets the girl.
Seriously. It was whether you were in school, college together, or you were at workplace or things. But this is now expanding over all different things that one didn't know about it and one learns in the course of the profession. So you have this paddle and pickleball, and you have this. Okay, see how it has evolved over a period of time is what I'm saying.
Yes.
What typically were the reasons for divorces, what typically were even a distraction, where infidelity and adultery was a distraction. But the levels to which it has now gone, or the tentacles that it has, is something which is this urbanization, modern things, online, social media.
On one level, it's also, and I mean this in a positive way, that women have more options also. Because men, to some level, always had some options. Women didn't have that many options.
Yes.
So,
and women are okay to take that thing.
Yeah.
So there's no longer a taboo.
And on the other side, because we spoke about infidelity and adultery, as the law calls it, as a cause for divorce. But I'd like to understand from you, suppose someone has cheated, whatever way, by digital, non-digital, caught me with someone, blah, blah, ho gaya. How do people get over that also and still continue a happy marriage? Because you must have seen that also.
Yes, they do.
Right.
They do because they want to, aberration may not be the exact word, but they feel, okay, some things which have happened. But then, so I have an upper hand over you because I've forgiven you to do that. But again, it all comes down from the sense of security, the status that the institution of marriage has. And even if somebody has messed it up, unless it is to that extent that it's terrible, and it's done
serial
like a serial killer or things
serial
like that.
Philanderer, they're called. That's
yeah,
a
let's
word,
call it serial killer of the relationship. Let's put it that way. So philanderer is there. Then of course, then I've given you one chance to. But it's maybe one or two instances that may have happened. 2 different instances that have happened. There are people who have reconciled and continued with their marriage despite such things. So I think that as much as some people say, with these number of divorces happening, with the kind of situations happening, do you think institution of marriage is a defunct institution? So I would not like to say it's defunct. It has its lot of issues.
It has a 90% success rate.
It has, and absolutely right.
Whatever success means, I mean.
Again, it's a very Yes.
So going to laws, basically, going ahead into laws, the legal profession and laws in general were created for justice for all, to protect people. Of course, some laws are older, like you said, archaic, non-archaic. And we do hear about laws getting abused in divorce. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Absolutely. And some sections in particular?
Absolutely. So what has happened as the law has evolved, as I said, the matrimonial laws have evolved with the change in timings. It was increasingly felt that women need to be empowered more with laws and legislation because they were at the receiving end. So there were the enactment of the Protection of Women from the Domestic Violence Act, which was enacted. There was another act which came into it where cruelty, physical, mental, or emotional, including dowry demands in some cases, or where there were illegal demands which were made, were not only a civil wrong but also a criminal wrong. And and there were various justifiable reasons for doing so, more to protect and empower the women. So, good intention, good objects and reasons. It helped a lot of people, good. But then there was a section of society, especially the women, who started abusing and misusing the law to such an extent that it really lost its flavor, or it lost what the essence of the law was. And these are the observations which I'm not making as a divorce lawyer. These are the observations made by the Honorable Supreme Court judges in some of the cases that came before it. That the laws which were meant to empower the women, to give them a right and give them that dignity of equality in a relationship, are being abused for ulterior motives. And those ulterior motives could be for money, could be for any of the situations.
Revenge.
The biggest thing, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Right.
Vindictiveness and revenge and going to the extent of I'll destroy you kind of a situation is there. So there are a certain section of the society where the laws have been abused. Courts have taken cognizance of it. Families have been destroyed. Now, I'll tell you, there's this lethal thing which was in the earlier criminal law, which was known as the 498A. Now, 498 of the Indian Penal Code was that any kind of cruelty perpetrated on the lady post her marriage by her husband-in-laws, etc., amounted to the husband-in-laws, the sister, married sister and her husband and extended family to be roped into criminal cases. And in some extreme cases, in the initial stages, Mukul, I've seen cases where 80 and 85-year-old grandparents were arrested on complaints made by a woman, because it was a joint family, so they were all staying together. So that fear was there, and there was abuse. There were some cases were genuine, but there was abuse. So that abuse has really shaken the trust of the faith in these laws which are there. And these abuses leads to trivializing the provisions. And that's what we need to.
I mean, is it trivializing? What happens is, because India is so many countries. So, of course, on one level, you need very strong laws to protect women, because you have crazy stuff that happens.
Yes, of course. And these laws are very relevant, very necessary. I'm not denying that.
For some different stratas.
Yeah. What pains me the most is not the person who doesn't have anything. It's the person who has, but just wants to use it to get more.
Can you give me an example of that?
So these were the cases that happened in the past. So when we're talking about this abuse, a very strange thing that I was in one of the magistrates' court. I was waiting for my matter to be called out, and there was one lady who came, and she was quite well dressed, and she came to the court, and her lawyer was not available. Whatever, there was a difficulty. So the court said that, okay, we'll wait till your lawyer comes, but just tell me what your problem is. She was carrying a bag. I mean, of course, me being a woman, I could realize what brand it is and what it could be, but that's fine.
Tell us the brand.
Okay, it was an Hermes bag. And
it's a Birkin bag.
Yeah, Birkin bag, as we call it. And it
so
was
one level above.
Yes. So it was a very expensive bag. And
the most expensive
bag.
Yeah,
the most, and she was carrying that bag. That's okay. That's her lifestyle. So then the magistrate asked her that, is, what's your problem? What it is? So she tells the court that there's no food on my table. And when I go back this evening, I don't even know whether I'll get my dinner. And this is the kind of harassment that I am facing at my place. And because probably the magistrate didn't know what the value of the bag is, or what the cost of the bag is, or what the situation is. And he would have otherwise said, oh my God, this is so much of a violence on this. I was so tempted, Mukul, and of course, this is none of my business, to be very honest, or this is not but I was so tempted to just stand up and I tell the court, as an officer of the court, just ask her to sell her bag if she doesn't have it, and then, or even rent it out, or any of those things, and see the kind of food that she'll be able to eat. So this was in a different, lighter vein. I mean, I'm not actually and I don't want to even trivialize the fact that women need to be protected and provide provided financially with the lifestyle that they enjoyed or with the kind of the financial backgrounds that they had. Funnily, when matters of maintenance comes, these are the statements made by the Supreme Court judges. Every husband becomes a pauper, or he's gone into insolvency and he's gone bankrupt. And every woman who is there is so distressed that there's no food on the table. So the magistrates have to deal with these two kind of extremes that are there before them.
Suddenly all the money has disappeared from the system.
Suddenly. And earlier you may be having 3 holidays overseas, you may be having all those fine dining, etc. But all of a sudden bankruptcy or insolvency, or there is severe hit.
The husband is kadka and the woman has no food to eat.
And she has no food to eat. And both of them are lying. Let me be very honest.
Yes.
Maybe it's a very euphemistic way of putting it to the court that, okay, this is what my needs are. But they are both lying.
Right.
So, yes, as lawyers, as persons who plead the matters, you do have to make it more effective, persuasive, maybe dramatic to a certain extent. But the extent to which this happens is something which is laughable, if I may say, to say the least. But when I'm saying this, all these provisions, and I'm saying this at the cost of repetition, all these provisions are necessary because we are talking about this 5%, 8%, which are abusing or misusing for ulterior gains.
The ultra
but there is a sizable section of women who do need these things for them to be taken care of and provided for. Today, all said and done, we do have to understand that there is a large section of women who need the protection of the law, who need the money, who need to give that kind of a help legally to be able to have a comfortable life for them and not be subjected to what it is. Now the Supreme Court has laid guidelines. Earlier, as I said, they used to just arrest. Any woman came with a complaint, this is my husband, this is my mother-in-law, this is my grandmother-in-law, and they asked for money. Some divorce for dowry some 5 years back, 10 years back, and so on and so on. It could be a matter of fact. But they would arrest them immediately. And there were people who were 80s and 85 grandparents of that age who were also arrested. So this was the level to which the abuse was done. And why would they do this? So that my husband comes under pressure and he gives me money. So now the Supreme Court, after seeing a number of cases that reached the Supreme Court, these things don't even reach the Supreme Court at times. So they are not aware of what the ground reality is. I with utmost respect to the Supreme Court. They know what the enactment is, so when these cases came and the courts realized that this is how it's been abused, now they've laid down guidelines. So if a woman comes and she complains, unless it's a very severe complaint where she's badly bruised, hurt, or where she is any of such things are there, you can take immediate action against the person. But otherwise, if there's a complaint that there is harassment, there is no food, as I said, or all these things, take a complaint, register an FIR, take statements from the husband or who the other accused are, father-in-law, mother-in-law, make a comprehensive report, give the report to the higher person, whoever, the DCP level, and then if they feel that there are certain actions to be taken. No arrest has to be made unless these guidelines are followed. Now, that has given a lot of comfort to the men who are there. And also for lawyers like us to tell the husbands that, okay, it may be a complaint. There could be an FIR, but it does not mean that you'll be arrested.
And what does a lawyer do if you have a client who's a woman who wants to, like you said, hell hath no fury like woman's scorn, and who wants to bring out the big guns and say, blah, 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 I want to do this. What does a lawyer do?
What does a lawyer do?
When the client says, I want to...
So that's where the advice of a lawyer advises whether you can do it in a different manner, which is in a more dignified manner, or do you want to go down the route of just, completely destroying them? Mukul, since we are talking about this, there are a lot of mothers of small children who are misusing the POCSO Act, which is the sexual offenses against minors.
Oh.
So even if it's a girl child or a male child, they are misusing, this is under the Juvenile Justices Act. And they are making false complaints against husband and in-laws. And those laws are very severe because these are sexual offenses against minors. Which could be hurt causing, which could be, whatever the case may be. And these not all cases are genuine. These are some cases which some women, either due to advice or maybe they are very vicious enough to do, they want to destroy the other person, they resort to it. So what I'm trying to say at a larger thing, that the more the laws that you have, they are for the good of the women. So we should be responsible when we use them. We should be more aware of what we are doing. Otherwise, you're trivializing it, and tomorrow the courts are going to feel, okay, every woman who's coming here or most of the women who are coming here is only because she wants a good settlement.
But how do they know that the woman or the man is lying? How do they know that?
So then you have to go through the evidence, and then you have to go through the medical reports, and then you have to go through.
And then it comes out. The truth comes out.
Yeah, then truth comes out. No, see, ultimately what it is, me making a complaint against you, it may be just a prima facie thing.
Right.
But me making a complaint and proving it in a court of law within the parameters of what the evidence laws is on the touchstone of that is, and then the courts being satisfied is how the final justice is given.
And then after a lot of those cases happen, is when the court can really understand this is being misused or not.
Yes, and just to give you one more example, though this is not exactly in the realm of family law, these are the POSH Act, that is Prevention of Sexual Offences at Workplace. Now, even that was made primarily for lady workers who were subjected to either colorful remarks from the men or things like that,
or sexual harassment.
For sexual harassment, and it does not necessarily mean physically harassment, but even making such kind of thing. The courts realized that even those kind of things were with an agenda, and most of them were not genuine. What has happened is, I'm a complainant. I say you are the CEO of the company. You are the one who sexually harassed me. My name is not disclosed because I am the victim, but your name is disclosed. Okay, we go through this, and it's found out that you've done nothing.
Right.
But your image is already tarnished, right? Whatever your reputation, your image, your standing in the society has been tarnished as an accused, as an alleged sexual offender to his colleague at the workplace. So these are the kind of long-term effects that it has in cases of workplace. But coming back to the subject that we are talking about, so it is very imperative that the laws are not abused. And this is what I keep telling a lot of in my public opinions, that it is very responsibly as lawyers we have to use the law so that the effectiveness of the law remains.
Got it. If someone has been wrongly accused in a divorce case, like you said, what can they actually do? And
nothing. There are no damages. Either your petition is allowed or it's dismissed.
Right.
So there are no damages.
So and what is a realistic timeline where you can be
for a divorce?
Yeah.
In a lower court, it takes 5 years.
If you are accused of some crazy stuff.
No, whatever crazy stuff is, you have to prove it. If you're not able to prove it, then you just go, you don't get a divorce. The wife says, my husband has done XYZ, and the wife has not been able to prove that. Her contentions are dismissed.
Got it.
But this guy has gone through what he's gone through. There is no compensation for him.
Got it. I want to talk about alimony. What is alimony?
Okay. So alimony is the amount which is awarded by the court to a spouse, and in most cases, the woman, for her sustenance and maintenance in the event of a divorce being granted. Pending the petition, there is what is known as an interim maintenance. Because if she has no money and she's out of the house and she needs, the courts will say, till we decide what the divorce is, whether to be granted or not, and what are the other reliefs, the courts will award her, say, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, whatever the case may be, for her monthly maintenance. So these are the financial provisions inbuilt in the matrimonial laws.
Got it. One of the most searched questions on divorce is, if my wife earns more than me, do I still have to pay her if I get divorced?
Yes, that is the most searched question, because the ways it is. So the answer to that question is, if she earns more than you, but what are your assets? You and I may be working, my salary is $100, your salary is, say, $50. So yes, I'm earning more than you. But then what are your assets? I have to see your net worth. So the courts have to see that. I mean, with utmost respect to the courts, one court will give a view that even if the woman is working, earning, you have to pay maintenance. Some courts will say, no, if she's working, she's financially independent, you should not give. So if you ask me, Mrunalini, what is the law? I'll give you these 2 judgments. Now you decide what the law is. But the most searched question, the answer to that is no, unless you are able to prove that she has enough money. And also, continuing with that, if she has more, you as a husband can also ask from her.
Does that happen?
Yeah, so under the Hindu Marriage Act, under the Parsi Marriage Act, because our marriages are based on our
Yes.
religion, a husband has an equal right to ask the wife for maintenance or for alimony if he is able to prove to the court that she's well placed or she is better placed than him, and he needs that extra money for his lifestyle.
Has it ever happened that a woman has to pay a man alimony after divorce?
Yes. So there are very few cases. I would not say so. So the numbers are very high, but there are cases where the courts have awarded. They have also awarded not only alimony, they have not only maintenance, but sometimes assets also. If there's a joint asset, then it has been done. But the presumption, and again, this is the perception of the court, the presumption is that a man is supposed to be earning and that he is supposed to be the provider. And if he's not doing, it's a humongous task for him to show as to why I don't have a job, why I don't have the source of income, and why I need in this background from my wife.
So how is the alimony decided? Is there a calculator?
So yes, earlier it was very difficult to do it, but now the Supreme Court has laid down roughly, and again this is very, very rough estimate. It is 1/4 of the net worth of the husband. This is considering the woman has zero and the husband say has $100, 100 rupees. Then 1/4 of that, also anywhere between 25 to 30 is what she's entitled to. So India does not have a law of equitable distribution of assets post-marriage or 50% of everything. If a wife is not working and she's sitting at home and not doing, she's well qualified, etc., it's not that she has kids or any of that sort, the courts don't ask her why you're not working. They should also ask her, now listen, you're a qualified person, so you're a qualified chartered accountant. Why are you sitting at home? Why are you not working? I can understand you have a young kid, or I understand you have an ailing parent, or some other difficulty. In today's time, we all have to earn our own bread. The courts don't, because that's traditional way of looking at it.
So no, just so I understand, suppose the guy has 100 CR, but he says, of course, I have some dependents, my parents, and also that gets reduced from it. So the wife can claim up to 25 to 30%, 25 to 30 CR.
Yes.
But it could also be less depending on the leakage expenses that he has and all that stuff.
Yes, but the other factors are what the law uses, the reasonable wants of the applicant, in this case, wife, the number of dependents that they have. Thirdly, the courts are also increasingly seeing the number of years invested in the relationship. We don't want someone who is kind of,
So there are a lot of things in the mix.
So all factors have to be taken. So it's not such a direct calculation that 100 crores, so 25 goes to the wife.
What happens to alimony if the paying spouse loses their job or retires?
Yeah, so then you can always go back to the court and say that there have been change of circumstances. In COVID, what happened was quite a few of them lost their jobs or they were not able to work or whatever their situation may have been. So the courts do consider changing. Or you could also go and say that, okay, my wife at the time when the order was passed was not working, but now she's got employment and she's working now. So whatever are the change of circumstances, you can bring to the notice of the court and they will indulge.
Wow, you make it sound so nice.
So no, what I'm trying to say, there's provision for everything in law.
Got it.
You make use of law. But on a more practical note, don't go to courts. I'm a litigating lawyer, Mukul, but my first thing is, guys, don't go to court. Please, I know that's a thing, Temple of Justice, you'll get there. But at the end of it, at the end of how much time?
You as a litigating lawyer are always saying, settle out of court. So for people who are thinking of getting divorced now, how much more will they benefit if they do it out of court versus going in court?
So my assessment based on my matters are that if the court, in a given set of circumstances, taking the facts, the documents, etc., are going to grant you, say, 100 rupees or $100, with proper negotiations and proper understanding and effectively to the ability of both the lawyers, at least 400 to 500 is what you get.
Wow.
So 3 to 4 times on a more conservative things is what you get. And Mukul, this is something even the courts have realized. So today we have a lot of mediations. The courts at every stage, whether it's commercial, not maybe less, but in family matters, whether it's dispute between brothers, dispute between husband and wife, dispute between father, son, and things like that, they all suggest mediation. So I think you should emphasize this. I'll tell you why. And this I'm saying is because people need to understand.
So what you're saying, Mrunalini, is that you should really never go to the court because there's so many options. One option is first see a therapist. Second option is get a mediator. Third is get pre-litigation mediation.
Correct.
With a divorce lawyer. You can go to a divorce lawyer.
Yes, and he or she will guide you, and you go because there's a small formality like a petition to be filed, and then the other side. Of course, in a pre-litigation mediation, Mukul, you have to understand both parties have to agree.
Of course.
Unlike a court, whether you like it or not, you have to come to the court.
Right.
But if both parties are agreeable to go for it, and by the grace of God, and again I'm saying this, that I got 100% in these matrimonial matters in pre-litigation mediation, is because then there is something which is an independent forum, which is not where no lawyers are involved immediately, because sometimes even as lawyers you want, it's always better to keep lawyers aside. So the mediator talks to the parties with his or her experience, shares what really happens in courts and things like that. The mediator cannot decide, okay, don't take 100, take only 60. No, that's not his job. He can just give an eye-opener, okay, what happens? What is it necessary? And get people to put on their thinking caps and let them think and come to an understanding.
But both the parties have to talk to each other, or there's
they can talk to like you are like I'm the mediator, you are here. So I have one individual session with you, I have one individual session with the other side. Then sometimes with both of them,
joint
and
session.
maybe at some point of time get lawyers also, because sometimes my client is more comfortable with the advice that I'm giving.
Right.
So then even if I say that yes, listen, so and so, what the mediator is saying is right. Why don't you consider that? Then we can, get these sorted.
And can a spouse lose the right to alimony if it's proved that they've cheated in the relationship?
So there were initially laws which said that if you, because, as they call it, that fidelity was one of the essential things of a marriage. I'm sorry to use these words, but in the law said a chaste woman. So those are the ways.
The good old days.
Yes,
British,
good old,
British
because
language.
that's I said.
A chaste woman.
A chaste woman. I know it sounds but I have to tell you what the law was. So a chaste woman was a person who was entitled, and someone who was
pure.
Not. Yeah, someone who was not entitled for it. Now it is a little different. It does not condone the act of, say, adultery by a woman or something, but
or a man.
So they may not be compensating her equally as compared to a woman who otherwise is not guilty of these things. But it does not leave the woman penniless.
Right.
So some kind of things.
So there's some progression.
So the courts come to a balancing.
Right. What are the legal consequences if the spouse refuses to pay the agreed amount?
Oh, then there's contempt, of course, and whatever happens with the contempt of court. There are recovery proceedings. Then your car could be taken away.
But that will be taking years.
Yeah, it takes years. Yeah, it takes
so basically,
years. So that's why. So when we can come back to the original thing, that when we're talking about out of court settlement, in most cases talk about a lump sum settlement,
right?
And we explain to our lady clients that listen. It may not be exactly the number that you want, but don't you think a bird in hand is worth two in the bush? So let's get it done so long as it is reasonable, because it saves your time, money, energy, and you're out of this entire thing. So at least you can focus on other things. Otherwise, it weighs on your mind.
If you want to focus on other things.
Yeah, if you want to focus. Yeah.
Many people don't want to, as you know very well.
Absolutely.
Can a wife legally go after the husband's family business, which is, his whole family, his father?
So the wife's rights of alimony, maintenance, whatever they are only restricted to what the husband's income is or what his net worth is. In that, there could be a share of the family business. Yes. There could be some other. So, we have our own investment portfolios, etc. So all those things can be considered. But then she cannot go after the wealth of the in-laws or the brother-in-law or etc. for her alimony.
It's his net worth, personal net worth.
It's
basically.
only his personal thing.
Got it. Today, high net individuals have money in so many different areas. You have crypto, people have money offshore, foreign properties, far-flung assets everywhere. And like you said, the judge says that the man is a pauper and the woman has no food to eat when the case comes up, because everybody is making up stories and deflating their net worth. Are prenuptial agreements legally binding in India? A lot of people ask this question.
So with an increasing number of divorces and the number of cases and the backlogs and things like that, and it became a question that the courts, though the courts have not legally accepted, there is no statute. It is lawyers and law thinkers who have now come up with prenups, which are more in the nature of a MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding that the intending parties want to enter into before marriage, just to cut the cost and the time and the stress and all of it. So we are we are giving that kind of an advice to them. I would not say we are encouraging them, but we are giving that kind of an advice to them to ring fence their wealth in a manner which will cut all the things otherwise they have to get into. So the high net worth individuals are primarily entering into this, where we give them specific sort of advice that, listen guys, this is not an executable document. This is not something which you can execute in a court of law verbatim the way you can do with other contracts and agreements which are there. But this could be also looked upon by the courts as the intent of the parties at the time if the matter.
So are the courts looking on them favorably? Like, do they keep
it favorably in the sense not being guided 100%? But this was an arrangement. Again, what happens is the Indian courts are going into what the facts and circumstances are existing at the time of the decision making. So it may be an understanding that the wife is not given anything. Now, why are prenups not legal? If you ask, because that's a question that you should ask, why the other countries are having. We are taking it to be something which is against public policy. So if you see the Contract Act in commercial things, you cannot enter into a contract which is against public policy. For example, if you say this casinos and this gambling is against public policy, you and I enter into that contract. So that contract could be questioned because it is against it. Similarly, public policy says to give adequate maintenance, alimony to the wife. But if there is a contract between the two of them, where the wife, out of fear, favor, or because she is madly in love with him, says, I don't want a penny from you or this, would that survive in a circumstance where the wife really needs the money? Or would the courts and the law, which otherwise has a public policy of providing for the woman who does not have funds of her own? So that is the dilemma that the lawmakers are having before making this as a thing. But today, for whatever worth it is, and after giving them all these details about, there are a lot of HNIs who are entering into this for whatever satisfaction that they have, for some document to ensure that they got.
Everybody knows what a prenup is. What is a postnup?
Yeah. Postnup agreements are, as the word itself says, agreement entered into by the spouses to arrive at some situation with
postnuptial.
Postnuptial. Postnup is postnuptial.
Post-marriage.
Post the marriage which is there, which we enter into an agreement.
So why would someone enter into an agreement after marriage?
So I have seen cases, and I don't know why they would, but I've seen a couple of cases that people, nobody enters into agreements otherwise in yours and mine families. But the things are that I've seen cases, and that's based on that I'm saying, that there are cases where people have, suppose a husband is caught in an extramarital affair. And the wife comes to know, and then there's a big showdown, etc. But she continues to be in the marriage. The husband says, I'm sorry, I messed it up and I will never do it again. But that trust is broken. Then again, she realizes that, okay, listen, that I've been married with him for the last 10 years, 15 years, but there's nothing in my name. Yes, he's providing me everything, but there's nothing in my name. Then she feels insecure. What happens if tomorrow you do the same thing? So they enter into an agreement that they, like do's and don'ts, moral code of conduct, that he will not do this again, etc. But that he has provided.
With some financial thing also.
Yes, some provision for that. The property or some transfer of an asset or some investment that is made. So that is an agreement.
So going back to prenups, like you said, a lot of HNIs are doing it now. two questions that come to my head. One is that it's a very delicate thing, no? That I'm just going to get married to you. I'm in love with you. We're going on holidays together and we're planning our marriage, spending money on our marriage.
Yeah.
And
you want to
suddenly in
get
the middle, I'm
this.
like, just one little thing I wanted to ask you, my darling. What is it? I want to sign an agreement with you. Kind of puts a little, douses the flames of passion.
Yeah.
So how do people do that? And do you advise that? Because it may help in the future.
Yeah. So this is a very, very typical thing which is there. So we advise them accordingly that it is in the long run better so that it cuts down on everything. Litigation, every cost that you may incur, every stress that you may get. The fear for the woman is more. So when suppose there's a couple who come and say we are getting married and we've agreed and we want to enter into a prenup. So whatever is your arrangement, I will agree. But I tell the lady or whoever the other spouse is that listen, please go, I'll drop the document, please go and take an independent legal opinion. Don't be guided by what I have done. Maybe I may be biased. So, and we write in that clause, both parties have taken independent legal opinion before signing this agreement. There is no force, coercion, no undue influence. There are all that standard clauses of things which are there. Now, this is as good as an agreement can be. Now, do women do it? And most cases, women. Do women do it voluntarily, or do they do it because of the fear of losing their husband, or do they do it because they just want that? Okay, they said, okay, if that's what he wants, I want to do it. So there could be various reasons why they do it, which obviously they are not going to disclose to me.
Right.
But if I have to be neutral and fair, this is the only thing that I can suggest. Coming back to on a more serious note, it is that people are entering into, because even, I have a lot of, so what do I say? Clients who come to me and they come to me with their parents. In fact, their parents take appointments with me because there is a lot of wealth nowadays. We have it for girls.
Girls, yes.
And
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah. So there are a lot of parents of girls who are going to get married. And sometimes, these gym trainers, which we are talking about. So two of the cases which I had was that they were marrying, they wanted to get married to a gym trainer. Now, a gym trainer with
a wealthy girl
from HNI, she falls in love with a gym trainer and she wants to get married to him. The father is going to just blow his top and say, what's wrong with you? And she says, you don't know, I'm in love, etc., etc. So in these kind of cases also, the fathers want to protect the wealth.
Right.
Some of them, we tell them to make arrangements in a manner that prior to marriage, you ring fence it in a manner that it does not hit the divorce court. But in some cases, we get into this also. Or they're getting married to some guy who's an Italian or something whom they don't know any antecedents, and they know that this family is a rich family from India, and their daughter is there, and we want to get married, and she's smitten by him, and she wants to do everything. So these kind of cases are also there. So we also do prenups for the girls who come from these
well-off families. And it's very common now.
Very, but quite common. Okay, let me put it that way. But more, yes. If you see the percentage wise, it's more the boys.
And is it in Goa prenups are legal or something?
Everywhere. No, there's no question.
The law is the same everywhere.
The law is the same. Central law.
So
Central law.
I want to talk about children a little bit, because a lot of times divorce comes with children also. How does the court actually decide?
The child custody cases.
The child custody.
Yeah, so in all cases, the courts, the guiding principle is the best interest and welfare of the child. Now, that's a very broad way of putting it. So this is based on various factors like age of the children. So obviously, the law says the child below the age of 5 has to be with the mother in most cases, unless there are exception circumstances. After that, it doesn't automatically go to the father. What is in the best interest and welfare, it could be there. The law has also evolved. What happens if the custody is given to the mother and she gets remarried? Does she lose the custody? So the Supreme Court has answered in one of the well-known cases of a well-known personality that remarriage of a mother, if I may use that word, does not disentitle her to lose the custody unless the person she's getting into is of a questionable character or is a bad influence. But just the fact, because the divorce entitles her to get remarried, that means doesn't mean that she loses the custody. And the visitations are different. The custody is also dependent upon the environment and the facts and circumstances and the surroundings where the child is going to grow up. Basically, the age and post the age of 11, 12, the wishes of the child. So these are the different parameters.
So post 11, 12 is the wishes of the
because
child.
by 11, 10, 11, the child has a mind of his own. He will be able to answer what his really wishes are. And major decisions are taken by both the parties, which is at a macro level, education, classes, universities, etc. So that there's an involvement. And me as a lawyer, I would like to be very clear here. Me as a lawyer is one person who believes that in a broken relationship, the least that you can do as matured people is to give your child the affection and love of both the parents. We have so many cases where people do not want to give the access or the visitation to the father, which is, unless the father is an alcoholic, into drugs and all, which are extreme cases. But just because I have an axe to grind, I'm using the child. I'm the last person to.
Is that common?
Yes, and how?
Right.
And how? It's very common. Because how do I get back at you?
Right.
So, typically, Mukul, in a court of law, a woman uses a child. And I'm just making a very general statement.
Yeah, but you've seen it so much, yeah.
Yeah, and the man uses money. So he puts screws on her money.
Right.
Credit card is withdrawn.
It's money and child, right. When it gets to that ugly stage.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What happens to a child if their parents are going through like a 10-year custody case?
Yeah, so that's what it is. I give you an example. The boy who came was around 2 years old. He became 19, who was also entering
The
into
child
medical.
of the parents getting divorced was 2 years old.
When the father or the mother started, by the time it got done, the child was 19 and he was taking admission in a medical school. What I saw in this case was that a lot of negativity about the father, which was given by the mother, he realized that it's not all true. And after the age of 14, he just went and started staying with his father.
One thing, there's this guy called Chris Martin of Coldplay and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes, I know, we saw them, yeah.
They got separated like many years ago, and they had a press release and they called it a conscious uncoupling.
Decoupling.
Uncoupling, decoupling. And a lot of people laughed at it because it was quite funny. But basically what they meant was a very clean, non-messy, mutually happy divorce. Does that happen?
Yes. Quite a few. See, I'll tell you something. Educated, matured, and people who have understood have realized that it is unfortunate that their relationship has not worked. They also realize, especially if they have children, and we have some certain consent terms, and you must understand this, in where parties say, even after divorce, and we are separated, and we will have one international holiday as a couple with the child, even if we are married or if we are there, to give that child that one holiday as a family.
Right.
That is a level of maturity that people have, because they feel our differences are one part of it.
Yes.
But this is such a minority. Most of them don't get into it.
Most of them don't have very rare to have a clean divorce, right? So if a divorce is inevitable, what is the cleanest way to do it?
By consent, by mediation, by pre-litigation mediation. Don't go to court. Sit, work with, go to good lawyers. And good lawyers means people who are wanting things to be done in a proper manner, not who's going to fuel litigation or take you to court. And lastly, and more importantly, take the advice of all the professionals concerned, which could be counselors, which could be a child therapist. In fact, when there are child custody cases, the first thing that I say, that is that I'm a lawyer, I can explain to you what is good, what is bad, based on my experiences as a lawyer, but I'm not a qualified or a sort of person to decide that. So many cases I refer children to good therapists or good child psychologists and take their view. What does he or she feel is good for the child?
That's very good.
Yes.
So that'll kind of bring the spouses out of themselves.
Yes. And says that, listen, you guys, you can do what you want, but this is what we feel is beneficial. If both of you love the child as you claim, and we know you do, then you have to do so much.
A lot of people thrive post-divorce. What is the difference between clients who get destroyed post-divorce and those who thrive?
So, thrive, Mukul, is a state of mind.
Right.
Okay. What you feel. I'll tell you, the way it starts, when the divorce happened, as I just told you that I had dinner with one of the guys who just got recently divorced. And then I just asked him, hey, buddy, how are you feeling about it? So he said, relief. And I'm just giving you verbatim, just because it was just something which happened 2-3 days. Immense peace, no nagging, no questioning. And this is a husband, so I'm giving no nagging, no questioning. I can do what I want. I can come home when I want. Maybe at times even indulge in drinks as much as I want. Pickleball and what is that? What did I say?
Paddle.
And all that I can do. And there's nobody who is going to. So there's complete peace, there's complete tranquility, and there is a sense of absolutely everything having settled down.
Right.
The question that is that this is an immediate reaction. What happens after a year or two is when some people feel the need to have a companion, whether marriage or no marriage. If they find someone, now today you have so many options, dating sites, da 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 da. If they find someone, well, and if they don't find someone, these are the people who come and ask that, could you recommend someone?
They come to you?
Yes.
They come to you for recommendations?
Yes.
Amazing.
Seriously. Then listen, you've done so many divorces. You've seen people. You've seen what it is. Is there someone who's been divorced, or like they call the word, I don't know whether it's an innocent divorcee is a word that is something which is there. But do you think there are innocent divorcees which you think can be there? And is there any contact? Of course they come to me. So
what is an innocent divorcee?
Innocent divorcee is the victim of a divorce. Right. He or she is not responsible.
So they have hearts of gold, but they are what is the right word? Sullied.
They are the giving ones.
They are sullied by divorce.
Sullied by divorce.
So they're the best people to marry, basically.
Yes. Who are not? I mean, you don't recommend a man who's been a wife abuser or who's been a drunkard or something, but someone whose wife cheated on him and he agreed for a divorce and he had nothing to do. I would like to get introduced to him. So yes, they do come to me.
What are the 3 things an individual should look at today before getting married so they never have to come to your office?
So I think, as I told you earlier, it was respect and trust, which is the edifice which I said. But also a very critical point is adjustment. And you have to adjust and learn to adjust if you have to make it. I'm not asking you to say that compromise on what is things. But then ultimately, if both the parties take a stand, it's my way or the highway, it's going to only lead to disaster.
Right. You have been married for decades and you have spent your entire career watching marriages end. What has this work taught you about your own marriage that you could not have learned anywhere else?
Yeah, so I learned from the others' mistakes.
Yes.
And which I followed there. And have the most important thing that in a long-standing relationship, like my marriage is over 4 decades, is a space to each other. Again, I come back to respect and trust in each other. May not be that may not be necessarily you're not agreeing on, say, 9 out of 10 things.
9 out of 10, huh?
9 out of 10. I'm saying 9 out of 10 things. You have to shove it under the carpet. You explode, you blow, you say whatever it is. It's done. You go ahead. Tomorrow is another day.
Look at the bigger picture. You
have to look at the big. What are you going to lose if you do this? You're going to lose this family structure. See, ultimately, especially for a woman, and I'm not saying because I am a professional and a woman really invests in the marriage. Okay, I mean, you must have seen around. So it is not that it is just that she leaves the house, she comes, your mother becomes my mother, your sister becomes as close to me, and you just do this. Do you want to just let this all go for what? For something which
it has to be really worth it.
And it has to be so extreme that it is impossible.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Like you can't live, you literally are dying basically.
So that is one of the things that we have done. And sometimes you have to come to this conclusion that we agree to disagree. So if you keep that principle in mind, and there are certain things, and the most important thing, at the end of the day, I don't know whether it's love, romance, passion, that's something. If there is basic care for each other. Like you were just talking that you're 70 and somebody reminds, the spouse is reminded, listen, you've not taken your tablet, which is so important. You've not had your milk because you need to have that. Let me go and that's it. You've achieved the World Cup, I would say. In the sense, this is what relationships are about. Each other. Caring is the most important thing because don't look at it today. It's when you are not all there physically, mentally, emotionally, where somebody is there for you.
Yes.
Isn't that what is important? And isn't that what most of the cases, maybe in our generation, I don't know, but the present generation, always believed in? The only thing that I will have to say is that when you get married, don't do it as a chore, like, after school, university, after university, you do that. Don't do it like this. It will have to be a conscious decision when you are prepared and ready for it, and not when just because you're 25.
No, when you find the right, but the arranged marriage don't work that way. I was going to say when you find the right person.
Now, what is a right person also? What is a right person? Because that which I think is right today, tomorrow, he doesn't become the right person.
Yeah.
Which I've given you examples also. So when you're mentally prepared that this is what marriage entails and this is what I want to do, and I know I'm going to take my chances, I'm going to work positively towards it. Rest you'll have to leave it to destiny,
So you're saying in a way that you need some maturity. So what do you think? Because in India, historically, people get married very young. It's getting a little older, but it's still quite young.
Yeah.
Especially among a bunch of communities.
Yeah.
Have you seen any correlation between younger people getting married and older people getting married?
So if you ask me, and I'm talking about my generation, we all got married when we were just about 20.
Yes.
Okay, that's me, and I'm sure there are quite a few others. Just about 19, 20. Our earlier generation were 14 and 15, as you know. So talking about our generation, it helped us to mold ourselves vis-a-vis and adjust and adapt to the family. Sometimes you have joint family, sometimes you have individual family. Vis-a-vis after 30, 32, and I'm talking about typically as a girl, getting married, you are quite opinionated by them. So that adjustment, and I'm not judging it right or wrong. I'm just giving you parallels to come to it. Against 30, 31 who are quite opinionated, and today's generation is more opinionated. So that becomes a little difficult. Why should I do it? Now, why should you do it? I don't have an answer.
Right.
But I think you should do it because that will buy peace. So is it a rational answer? No. Is it a rational question? Yes.
No. So thank you so much, Mrunalini.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed myself, and yeah, I think people will have a lot of lessons from this.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.